Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show talking about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Bull, as well as the latest episode of The Enemy Within. Like always, if I'm talking about something that you want to listen to, you can always look in the description down below. I include a time when I start talking about each of the respective shows. So, for example, if you want to hear what I say about this week's episode of Bull, you can skip to what I say about this week's episode of The Enemy Within. But the first thing I'm going to talk about is this week's episode of Bull. A very interesting episode. Essentially it follows this boy named Lucas who was basically living with his dad. His dad was delusional, and his dad just kind of like, oh, this is our land, we got to protect it. If anyone steps on our land, it's kill or be killed. Basically it ends with like a social worker ending up getting killed, some officers getting hurt, and his dad being killed. And now Lucas is on trial for the murder in that situation, even though the bullets that ended up killing people, the social worker in this particular case came from his dad. And now it turns into this whole thing because Lucas has lived his entire life like that, his entire 16 years like this. He even ended up confessing, when the police got to him and everything. But for him, he doesn't really know any world, because for him, his father was his world. Everything he knew about the world, everything that house, that little cabin they lived in was kind of that was his world. And because his dad was so delusional, thinking like the world was going to end, and the only way that they could survive it was being by themselves in seclusion and kind of be self-sustaining. So they never really interacted with a lot of people. And, so a lot of this is kind of overwhelming for Lucas, because even in the courtroom when it's all said and done, he's like, do I get to go home now? And they're like, Bull had to be like, no. And he's like, are you going home? And Bull was like, yes. And he's like, is Benny going home? It's like, yes, but I don't get to go home. And it's like, it breaks your heart, because when you look at him, like, under these circumstances, you see him as kind of almost like this helpless little kid. And I don't know, it does make me sad. Even sitting here thinking about it almost makes me tear up a little bit. I don't know. I'm a punk. I can't help it. I'm a very emotional person. So just to me, that I don't know. Cause even though he's a teenager, I still, because of this episode, I look at him as almost like a defenseless little kid, And, you feel so bad because it's like he was raised in this world to feel and think like that. And, it's a tough case to pull off, especially because everything's against him. Like I said, he confessed and everything. Because obviously when Benny's, trying to explain this to the judge of yeah, he's this way because of his father being delusional and everything. And he snaps. He starts yelling that's not my father told me it's kill or be killed. They messed up. They stepped on our property. Because for him, his father's words were law. His father was the only person he could rely on. His father was his everything. And for anyone to kind of badmouth his dad and be like his dad's this and that, him hearing Benny say that, obviously it would piss him off because his dad was his everything. It's like no, my dad was a good man, because in his head he didn't know necessarily at the time what was right and wrong, because he had never really been taught. Because for him it's like he'd been taught, hey, you follow orders. And that was something they were kind of trying to get through with the jury and stuff like that, to show try to go for people who would take advice from other people, who would follow behind other people, not necessarily, taking advice of others over their own and stuff like that. And that's what happened in Lucas's case. He didn't know any better. It's just kind of my dad is the one that teaches me. He's the one that's looking after me. So what he says goes. He knows best, essentially, kind of relying for him to figure everything out. There's the lady Yvonne, who was the one that called the social service in the first place. And it's okay, so they try to get in contact with her, but I guess we ultimately find out the reason why she was ignoring him is because she ended up pointing out the fact is that Lucas, because she was brought in by the prosecutors, and so the whole point was supposed to show Lucas lived with her for 3 weeks, which even I'll admit, it's just they don't know right and wrong. The argument I would have made, because the whole thing is he lived in a good place, a happy family, hot running water, a bed. He went to church, learned about the commandments of thou shalt not kill and everything like that. But my argument to be with that is, yes, these 3 weeks, sure, but he lived 16 years or so of his dad telling him otherwise. So it's shouldn't that counteract those 3 weeks? But I guess that 3 weeks is enough just to throw enough wrench in the defense that Bull and Benny were coming up with. So it's even sad because Lucas, even at one point, after the whole thing with Benny talking about his dad trying to hang himself, and it's kind of because the Dr. Stanton was kind of could we use this as kind of proof of yeah, he's just not in the most stable condition just because of everything everything he's gone through. Yeah, but Bull's like, yeah, but the prosecutors will try and twist it and be like, see, he tried to kill himself because he realizes what he did was wrong, kind of like destroying their defense in the process. So, but ultimately, they also find out that Lucas's dad had lied to him, saying like, "Oh yeah, your mom had died." He even said like, "Oh yeah, my mom hung herself," and it's like, no. The fact of the matter is, his mom is well and still alive. Granted, she's kind of, caught up in drugs and stuff like that. She hasn't led the best life. But the reason why, like, the fact is, even she back then wanted to take, way back then when he was still a baby, take Lucas and run. But he was so, like, Lucas's dad was so crazy back then, he threatened, "Now I will kill you and Lucas if you try and leave." And it's like, and it's sad because, and even when it was all said and done, because obviously she was sent there to kind of paint the picture of what kind of a person, Lucas's dad was. Obviously, the prosecutor tried to be like, "Oh, don't you have this shady past?" And she's like, "Yeah, you want to say that? Sure." But she's like, "The fact of the matter is, at one point in time, I used to be kind of someone respected. I was kind of a human being, but then Lucas's dad kind of destroyed that. And the fact is, look at my baby boy over there. Turned him into a monster." And it makes you wonder when it's all, well, not a monster, but a killer. And it makes you wonder when it's all said and done, will he ever have a relationship with his mom? Like, it was extenuating circumstances that led to her not being in his life, even his dad going, because I'm sure that kind of fueled things, because at first he didn't want to believe it's like, this lady could just be someone else. So he didn't want to really listen to what she had to say, because for him it's like, the fact is that, she doesn't mean anything to him, that so he was like, I'm not going to say anything in court, I'm not going to get riled up, because it's like, I don't know who this person is, she has no connection to me. And what we ultimately ended up being a very tilting point in this case was the whole fact is that during practice, when he's shooting at targets, like, a lot of the bullets are lined up and stuff like that. And I figured it out just when they said, it's like, right. The fact is, we found out earlier that the one person Lucas ended up shooting was an officer, but it was in the leg. If he has such good marksmanship, that means he missed on purpose, and that speaks volumes. And, after, Benny running him through it and everything, and then points out the fact is, you didn't do that even though your dad said it was kill or be killed, because you had learned in church when you were with Yvonne, thou shalt not kill. You learned that. And it weighed on him, because we as an audience saw it. His dad fired off a whole bunch of shots before he even pulled the trigger. I thought what was going to end up being the case is that he wouldn't pull the trigger at all. So I was actually kind of shocked when he did, because I thought he was going to hesitate, and that's still going to be the situation if he got caught up in it. But then early in the episode, they made it clear of like, no, we saw that the shots, which ones came from his gun and which ones came from his father's gun, that whole situation. But for him, he just couldn't, like, you can see him kind of breaking down, because it's like, because he did know that it was wrong. That's why he didn't shoot to kill, because he knew it was wrong. And it's sad circumstances, that led Lucas there. And even the, prosecutors like, hey, you're about to win this, because obviously the jury's, swayed by Lucas's story. But even Bull was like, no, I don't want him just to get away, like, in the sense of like, it's just like, let him go free, because that won't do any good for him. The fact is, we need something that's better suited for him. So they're going to let him stay with Yvonne until he's 18, and then he, can move out and kind of do his own thing. But they want him to also meet with Dr. Staten, so he has someone to talk to. And they're, showing him everything, being like, oh yeah, here's a restaurant, here's a celebration, and it makes you feel good, like I said, it's a sad set of circumstances that led to his life being the way it is, and it's no fault of his own. He's just stuck in this terrible situation, and like I said, it made me feel something, like, I don't know, it just like when you see the look in his eyes, it's just because, like, basically his entire world got turned upside down in an instant, and he's in what is essentially a foreign world to him, like these courtrooms and the jail cell. It's just, it's all overwhelming, and you feel so bad for him. But at the very least, like I said, you can take solace in knowing, like, hey, he's with Yvonne, and maybe, obviously he was good in those 3 weeks. He was happy in those 3 weeks. So continuing beyond that, then it's all good. Like I said, I hope maybe on some level, maybe his mom could get clean, and maybe she can be in his life again. They can make up for lost time potentially. But even if that doesn't end up being the case, because I think she realizes, like, how messed up Lucas ended up, and maybe, I don't know, maybe there's something that can come about that. They don't really tackle that this episode, but maybe, I don't know. At the very least, you can hope that, things will be well for him. He can go to school, he can learn to read, he can lead some semblance of a normal life, so there's that good side of things, so Another side of things, interesting enough, is Marissa's side of things. That Marissa, her husband finds out, like, hey, you basically froze some eggs. And for her, it was that situation of, and it's that thing of like, oh, go ahead and do this, have a nest egg, essentially. Funny choice of words on my part, interestingly enough, but just so in case you get, because eventually it's like, oh, her friends were telling her, oh, you'll hit that switch where you'll be like, oh, I want kids, and in all honesty, she doesn't know, because when her and her hubby, got together again, got remarried, it's like, oh yeah, like, they kind of decided then, it's like they didn't want kids, but has she changed her mind? But for her, it's like, I don't know, the switch hasn't been flipped, and it's like, if I told you the switch had been flipped, how do you feel about it? And he was like, I don't know either. And so it kind of got them thinking, and you see Marissa constantly thinking about, she sees a mom and her kid, that's making her thinking. Obviously Taylor, I didn't even think about it at the time, like when I was watching the episode, because oh yeah, Taylor's got a kid too, and just like her son sending her a whole bunch of poop emojis and stuff like that. I thought that was kind of cute. But for Taylor, she actually thought it was kind of like she was envious of Marissa. Because like in Taylor's case, it's not like she had some switch or anything happen. It's like, no, it wasn't a planned situation, but she wouldn't trade it for the world because like her son means the world to her. And so for her, it's like she's still envious of Marissa because like no matter which way Marissa goes, whether she has a kid, whether she does or doesn't, you get what you want in the end. And it's like there's kind of a happy ending either way, So kind of takes solace in that. And when the time comes, like Marissa took this case, kind of the sad circumstances around Lucas, it's like having a demented, a dad who was delusional and a mom who was a drug addict, and it's like he was just this innocent little baby, yet terrible people can kind of come together, end up creating a baby and putting that baby in a terrible situation. Because another element I didn't even think about too, it's like, oh yeah, Marissa's own situation, being adopted and everything, like feeling like you're not wanted and stuff like that. So of course, like that would play a part in her mind too about the whole situation. Because I think for her, it's just kind of like, I think there's a part of her that's worried that, what if I make the same mistake as my parents, where it's like, oh, I have this baby and I don't want him, and I put this baby through the trials and tribulations that I went through. But you have, her hubby telling her it's not going to be like that. The fact of the matter is, if you decide not to have that baby, like obviously I'm 100% beside you with whatever decision you make. But if the fact is that you do want that kid, I want you to know that in no shape or form will you even have to worry about, even have to even consider the fact is you might be like your parents in that regard, kind of we're in this together and stuff like that. And I love even like, oh yeah, like we could get started right now. She's like, that's not how it works. It's like, he's like, it's not, this is how it works. She's like, no, they take you and they show you porn. And he's like, porn? He's like, well, the things we do for our kids. And I love that being a little moment like that. So it seems like Marissa might be going through with that. So that's definitely going to be interesting. Obviously, that all going down while, still working with tact and stuff like that. We might see moments later on where it's like Marissa's got her own thing to deal with trying to have a baby and stuff like that. So she might not be there. And she's, Bull's right hand in everything. So it's going to be interesting to see if that makes a big impact on anything going forward. But like I said, this was like a very solid episode. Like I said, it just, I don't know, it hit me in the feels and stuff like that. This one in particular, just the nature of the episode. So, but I'm very interested to see what the next episode has in store for us. And now moving on to this week's episode of The Enemy Within. Lots of interesting things went down in this episode. Obviously, it's kind of interesting because it's like not even the main thing in the episode kind of matters that much, but I guess it does because basically it's like this assassin that was coming after a senator in this episode. His name's Aksoy. I guess it's like he's kind of a means to an end, but it's also kind of proof of like, hey, Erica's very good at what she does because of a lot of the connections and stuff like that. Because it's interesting because we actually got, because I thought it was kind of interesting. I was curious to see what they were going to do because obviously at the beginning we show like Erica right when she gets prosecuted for being a traitor and stuff like that and sent away, and the lady she was kind of one of the ladies she was in locked up with turns out to be kind of connected to some terrible stuff, and that led to like Erica finding out about Aksoy, which she used that information present day, and it turns out he's in the country and everything. So it ties in that form, but it also ties in the sense of like, hey, it shows you that Erica is very good at what she does, that she is worthwhile in this whole situation. Obviously, because it comes up later on, because Jackie, she's new to this whole situation, so I was like, are we going to be working with Shepard? It's like, yeah. And Jason's kind of like, Bragg's like, oh yeah, I'm kind of okay with everything. Like, I mean, as long as we kind of take down the bad guys, I'm fine with it. He's like, I know it bothers the hell out of Daniel and Kate, but it is what it is. So he's kind of willing to see kind of the gray side of things, like kind of like Keaton is in a sense. So it's really interesting. It's kind of sad because, because there's a lot to kind of break down about this episode. First and foremost, Lane's dad keeps calling, and apparently he's been calling Kate too. And Kate's in this very compromising position because it's like, do I tell him the truth of what's going on? Because the fact is he's calling makes you think he's calling me and he's calling Keaton. Because it turns out that Lane and Kate were actually like sisters, so it's like for her she feels like a responsibility to tell him, but she's like, what should I do? Daniel's like, yeah, tell him. The fact of the matter is, working with Shepard is, Will's beast. That's his own situation, and it's his problem for, keeping it a secret, so it's not your issue to deal with. But to be fair, once again, Daniel is the one that's the most against the situation, especially after last episode too, because obviously he doesn't trust her at all, so it adds that layer of just like, it almost seems spiteful, the fact is he did that, but still. But the fact is, Will ended up telling Lane's dad himself. The only reason why he asked about it is because he heard about her getting arrested, so that kind of led him to asking. But at least Will was like, straight up, it's like, I'm working with him because it's going to allow us to take down find Tall and take him down for what he did to Lane. But, for her dad, it's like, no. You're just, trying to justify it. The fact of the matter is, you're working with the person that killed my daughter. It's like, I thought you were part of the family. Because, like, even if Tall was behind it and everything, she's still the one that played her own role in it. For him, it's like, no matter, even if it is Tall, the fact of the matter is, you can find him without Erica, or at the very least, like, the person directly. You want someone to pay. Like, I get it. Like, out of any situation, like, no matter who orchestrated everything, she still played her role in it. So, of course, you're going to be the most pissed at her because you think she did it, purposely and stuff like that, because obviously the only person that knows the truth is Will. And that adds this complicated element that he sees Erica one way where the rest of the world sees her as an evil person. But even he has this complicated situation because he realizes how many relationships he has to jeopardize around him for that sake, because he's decided to work with Erica because he's so intent on getting Tall. But it means like he's jeopardizing his relationship with what was going to be his father-in-law, even the people he's working with, because a lot of, like I said, Daniel and Kate have the biggest objections. We don't really see, Jackie seems like she has her hesitations, but she seems like she's kind of okay with it and everything like that, which is kind of interesting, because I'm like, the fact is it made such a point to give an introduction to Jackie like that last episode. I'm like, she must be joining the team or something. Like, I just didn't expect a little bit of, next episode she joined. I thought maybe a little bit later on down the line, but I was curious to see if we were just going to build up to it. But it's like, nah, Keaton pushed all that stuff there, so there's that. And like I said, Daniel's the most kind of like, I'm not really okay with it, but I accept it as it is. Kind of like, the enemy of my enemy is my friend type of situation, So we'll see what ends up happening, whether that kind of ends up changing later on with all of them or not. So. There's a lot of interesting stuff that went down with the whole Hannah situation. Hannah wanting to see with her mom, and after hearing that message last episode, and you have her being like, okay, let me find out about your life and everything. It turns out she stopped playing volleyball because her dad was like, yeah, it's probably the best thing, because like the other team found out about Erica, and that just complicates. And like obviously like Erica's situation kind of threw their lives into chaos and stuff like that. And Erica's like, oh, so how's your dad? It's like, dad was sad for a while, but I mean he's doing better now. She's like, good, because Erica even admits it later on. She's like, I honestly kind of didn't like, I kind of blamed Chris and everything because he left me after I got arrested and everything. But at the same time, like as time is going on, he realized she doesn't harbor that negative. She doesn't hate him. I mean, to be fair, there's going to be some, no matter what, there's going to be some small level, some piece of you that's not going to like the fact is that it's like he kind of helped take your daughter further away from you, made it so you couldn't see her in these 3 years. I mean, to be fair, you being locked up like you did, who knows if you would have really been allowed to see your daughter anyway, but I'm sure, her ex-husband didn't really help too much in that regard. But, so it's hard to say whether she really truly harbors, it's completely, doesn't hate him on some level or not, but like I said. But it's interesting because even Will is like, why not, because obviously you're hiding the fact is because you don't want Hannah to tell her dad the truth about it, because it's like, yeah, if he found out, he would shut this down immediately. But for her, it's like the reason why she doesn't even tell, much like the reason why she doesn't want to tell Hannah, because she doesn't want to tell Chris, her ex, because if he knew the truth, he'd try, he'd go public and be like, my wife, this and that, to try and clear her name, and that means Hannah would have to deal with the fact is that these people are dead so that she could live, especially because like every person that was a part of her team was like family to her. So especially those people, I guess that's why she gave those names first and foremost, because those, well, those were the specific people working on the Tall situation anyway. But I thought it was like 4 random people she picked. It's like, no, it wasn't 4 random people. It was 4 specific people. It must have also meant that he knew that that's why these particular people were probably chosen for this too, because on some level, maybe, like the mission that they were on in the first place that she gave to them is probably because like the investigations and stuff is because, inadvertently she probably showed them a little bias, because it's like, hey, you're family, so obviously I'm going to give these jobs to you, but also you can make the argument it's probably just like, no, they're just really good at their jobs. That's why she gave it this position and task with the whole Tall situation to her. But nevertheless, so she's kind of in a situation where she's damned if she does and damned if she don't. Like, because if she lets the truth come out, no matter how much she has to get punched, in the gut for it and get heartbroken about the situation, she can't let Hannah or Chris know the truth. And if Chris finds out that Hannah's visiting, like I said, he'll shut that stuff down. But Will's kind of like, if he asks me, I won't lie. I'll tell him the truth. And she's like, I know you'll tell the truth. And she's fine with that because she knows what kind of person Will is. And that's why she's betting all her eggs, in this situation, because she knows what kind of man Will is. Like, I think she's kind of done a good enough job vetting him and understanding and seeing what kind of person he is to realize that. So, but obviously that's all that we haven't even gotten to the real juicy bits too. Like you see Anna getting all close to Will and stuff like that. Oh, she's fixing his tie and everything. You see Erica noticing it and like, huh. And I love Kate being like, because she's like, why is Anna working here? And Kate's like, oh, she's been through a lot. Will's just trying to help her out. And then Erica says that comment of like, I bet she's trying to help. I bet she's trying to help him out. And Kate kind of like, could you send her back to her cell? It's like, you didn't even have to say that. That was such a dick thing to say. It's because I think for her, it's like, it's so obvious you have feelings for Will. You're just kind of keeping them bottled up and everything. And then I love it because like when she talks to Will and everything, and she's like, Keaton, because the fact that she was looking at Anna and was kind of like figuring stuff out. She's like, okay, so I want to look into the PCI, paid confidential informant files. This might be related to Tall. And Anna's over listening, and at that moment she's saying all that, I'm like, dude, I know what you're doing. I'm like, Erica, you're on to her. That's so good. And then later on, she, Anna kind of, but like, oh my God, like help me, like I'm kind of screwing up right now, so she could get access to the files and everything. And then Shepard, like Erica left a note on her desk and everything. I thought when they were going to meet face to face, I thought they were going to do like a real big twist of it being like, it's like, yeah, I'm contacting you because I'm on the inside too. Tall didn't want you to know. Like I thought it was like a double bluff of a situation where it's like, actually, yes, I was with him on purpose. But I feel like if that was the case, Tall would have probably told all his informants or all the people he has undercovers, all his spies, that Erica really wasn't working for him, that he kind of forced her. So probably everyone knows the tale of Erica. Everyone else knows the truth, so they wouldn't believe her if she told that lie. But I thought maybe that's a potential. I was waiting for that. And then it was kind of like, she's like, your secrets are starting to show. And it was like, what? Who? Your feelings for Keaton. She's like, well, how would you know about feelings? The fact is, I loved it because she started getting on and it got on her high horse. It's like, that's when you do it. Like when you lie so much and so hard, you have to double down on it. It was crazy. She starts digging in to her, being like, oh, how dare you? The fact of the matter is what you brought to your family, like your daughter Hannah. And the fact is, I'm sure Erica really didn't appreciate the fact that it's like, bitch, don't mention my daughter's name. So just, so there's that. But there's also the fact is, it's like, I'm just here to help Will and everything, It's like after he's been through so much, and because of you, he didn't just lose Lane, he lost the ability to trust. I'm like, oh my God, you are so full of shit, and I love it. It's so good because it's like we know who you are. Erica knows who and what you are. That you're a spy in this situation, and I love it, dude. I was like, oh my God, it's like, is she gonna keep this that close to the vest? It's also interesting too. I guess the reason why she didn't go to Will at first is because it's like, oh, she wanted Will to come to her first. That way it kind of legitimizes everything, because she knows if she went to, he wouldn't be willing to listen. But obviously Kate's like, yo, someone tried to look into the PCI files related to Tall. He goes to her, he's like, how did you do it? Erica, you did it yourself, or did you manipulate someone to do it? She's like, no, I knew you'd never say yes to me, so I said that in front of Anna so she revealed herself as a spy. I'm like, yo, are we getting to this soon? I did not expect that. I was like, that blew my mind because I'm like, I expected this kind of be a little bit more drawn out, but it's like, no, Erica's already on top of it. I brought that up earlier. Like, I was so interested when Erica and Anna kind of get in the same room together. Like, Erica was going to see through it. Literally did. The episode is like, wait, oh, Anna's working here? The moment that happened, it got all figured out. Because she never actually got to speak or see any of the conversations with Anna while she was in the hospital and everything. Like, obviously, up to this point, Will's the only one that was talking to her, so that's interesting. But also, like I was bringing up before, it did seem like there's a little bit of that flirtatious nature of her being like, oh, like, let me fix your tie and everything. I'm like, yeah, she's trying to worm her way into Will's heart, potentially, so. Which that all is crazy. Because on top of all that, you could make the argument like, I'm sure Will's going to be like, you're full, no, blah, blah, blah. He's not going to want to listen to Erica because it's Erica and it's like she's evil. Like, because I think for him, he's willing to kind of listen to certain regards because he sees what kind of woman she is. He sees, like, you know, how she cares about her daughter. Like, you even saw him kind of listening in on a conversation and, like, they're talking and you see him kind of smirk a little bit because it kind of shows him that she isn't the monster that everyone thinks she is. I mean, she's got her complicated situation, but she even talked about it herself. She was like, yeah, like, I feel stuff too. Like, it's not like I'm some like immune monster or something. Obviously that's not what she said, but that's kind of implying, like, you know, because she's like, yes, I can't understand. She's like, I don't know what you're thinking and how you're feeling, but I can understand, you know. But I don't think he's going to want to listen. Maybe it will be enough. Like, I'm so curious to see what's going to happen because, you know, Anna's probably got excuses up the wazoo of being like, no, it wasn't me. It wasn't this. Like, oh, I was trying stuff because I overheard your conversation. He's probably going to bail her out every time. Or we go the other route where it's a situation of he plays into it to kind of get her to reveal whether, like I said, I'm curious, like, which way is he going to lean? Is he going to be like, no, or is he going to be like, yes, and he's going to lean into it? Maybe things kind of start happening between him and Anna for the purpose of like, oh, we're getting close to deception that causes issues with Kate and everything potentially. That would be nuts, dude. Because she did say the point of like, are you willing to kind of, you know, deal with the fact is a lot of people will look at you in a different way if it means taking down Tall. Like, she's willing to do that, but it's like trying to take down Tall means kind of like taking any blows that come your way, essentially, you know. So it's gonna be interesting to see if he's willing to do that. I mean, you would think so, considering he's doing this automatically. He was already against it at the beginning, but now he kind of makes a lot more excuses to kind of work with Erica in a regard because, for once again, she's making progress with this whole Tall situation, progress that they haven't made before. And once again, like, everyone's got their hesitations about it, but still. Also, there's that whole thing that Kate was doing where she took bits and pieces of the map and ended up like helping with the whole airport situation. I was like, that's pretty dope. That's some awesome technology. Like, she stitched together like thousands of security footage stuff to basically make like a 3D model and stuff like that. And then later on I found out, oh, it's a Microsoft plug for like the HoloLens. I'm like, wait, what? Oh, the integration is crazy because it's, you know, there's some series that do that. Like, I mean, it's there. Product placement's all over the place, but it's just like, I didn't pick that together. I thought it was like, oh, something specific for the show. I didn't realize it's like, oh no, we're basing this on real technology. It's like, because I've never actually looked into the HoloLens. I know I'm going under a whole tangent, so that's why I was like, and that's why it didn't click in my head at first. But like, if you're familiar, like Lethal Weapon does like a lot of like Microsoft Surface like commercials, it would do that, you know, integrate it like that. But it'd be more so the commercials, not the fact that it'd be part of the episode and just a commercial little thing too. It's crazy. I didn't expect the integration, and it was, I don't know, I'm not mad at it, you know. It's just kind of funny to me. I was like, oh wow, that just kind of caught me by surprise. I didn't realize I was getting product placement or like that in my face about it, you know. But nevertheless, it's definitely going to be interesting to see where all of this takes us going forward into the next episode, dude. I can't believe it came out this soon about Anna. To be fair, once again, it's just Erica, but it would make sense because, like, how would Erica get access to anyone else? It's like, she's usually surrounded by people, so, and you'd probably have to ask someone, like, I mean, there's literally only a handful of people who could have done it, so there has to be some validity to what she's saying, because it's like, a lot of people are around her enough to be like, well, she's not talking to anybody, like, she only really talks to the team, she doesn't really talk to anyone outside of the team, you know. So I wonder if there's security cameras that's going to show, like, her going down there to visit Erica, like that might mean something, but be like, nah, Erica, she found out about the fact is I might kind of have feelings for you, like that might play in it too, like she kind of might lean into it like that potentially, and it just, like I said, it's definitely going to be interesting to see what the next episode has in store for us with all of this. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.